Welcome back to Punch Drunk Nerd, the podcast where three friends, three amigos come together to talk about nerd shit. I'm your host tonight, Miguel Sanchez. With me is
Ed Bull.
We are one nerd down. Luis is traveling for work this week, but after last week's debacle, we said we got to forge on. Okay, we got to keep going.
We're gonna do this.
The people want this. Every single one of those 17 subscribers need this podcast today. Okay?
We had so many calls about why we were absent last week, and
I mean,
you know,
in the dozens of people asking us, where are we? And we're back.
Yeah.
Okay. It's the two of us tonight, Miguel. Hey, who doesn't love a Miguel and Ed show? You know, like sometimes it gets a little crowded.
We're the OG. How did this start? I'm just saying. I
don't want to say anything.
Yeah.
No, you guys, we got a jam-packed episode. And by that, I mean, it's super chill. It's so light. Okay. We got a couple of trailers. We're going to do a little bit of trailer talk. And then we have a new segment that we're going to talk about tonight. I'm going to intro it a little bit later. So stay tuned. As always, like and subscribe on all the socials. You guys, we haven't done it in a while, but feel free to leave us a voice memo. Okay. If we're talking about something, if there's a big trailer that's just come out and you want to talk about it, if there's a movie you saw that you want to review, a TV show, a game, music, whatever, feel free to hit us on our socials, leave us a voice memo, and we'll get it on the podcast, time willing. Okay. Yeah. Like give us,
or, as long as it's appropriate. You know,
and actually, honestly, if it's good too, because like, listen, we're big shots now. We have 199 subscribers. Okay, that might as well be 1 million. Okay,
I mean, it's double from what it was. So.
I mean, come on now. All right. Anyway, you guys, we're going to jump right into. We don't have any news this week. We're keeping it light. We're keeping it tight.
We kind of got news.
We do have some pretty big trailers that came out this week. Okay, we were lucky. You guys, just a little peek behind the curtain. We record on a Wednesday. We release on a Friday. Do you know how many fucking trailers come out on a Thursday evening? And you're like, God damn it. Okay. Yeah. You know, we just recorded the episode and now we have to wait a whole week. We got lucky this week though. We had two big trailers release before we recorded.
I guess we're getting warmed up for the Super Bowl, aren't we?
I mean, yeah, and we're going to have, I assume a whole segment on the Super Bowl trailers, next week.
Yeah.
No, I'm excited.
No, yeah, I was joking. But now, I want more trailers aside from Jurassic. I don't want to just see Jurassic World and Fantastic Four again. I want to see more. Give me the trailer for
more
Frankenstein. Give me the trailer for Batman 2.
Because if anyone knows, the big game is definitely the time for cinephiles to thrive. So definitely our time of year.
How do you think they get those viewing numbers up, baby?
Let's see that big trailer for
nerds tuning in. Is that what's happening with the game ball? Oh, I don't know.
Go on, Ed.
Taylor Swift's boyfriend is winning.
Ed, name like one call you might hear in football.
Out of bounds.
There you go. All right. All right. We're talking about trailer talk right now. It's our trailer segment. You guys, we had two big trailers come out this week. We're going to talk about the first one right now. You guys, big one. All right. Some might say fantastic. All right. You guys, the Fantastic Four First Steps. Marvel finally released the first trailer. Guys, it came out on February 4th. Talk about, timing. F4. Ed?
I didn't even give it that kind of consideration.
Didn't even know.
Brilliant.
Didn't even know.
Excellent.
Okay.
Well done.
Come on. They were working. On that.
Somebody did. Somebody probably didn't get a raise, but probably got a good old pat on the back.
Good old Kevin was like, "Good job, sir.
Good job. Now get
back to work." So Fantastic Four came out with their very first trailer. You guys have all seen it by now. Okay. I don't know about you guys. I've seen it about 45 times. I keep watching it. I do. We talk about we're going to do like a trailers episode. Would this one like make my top 5 trailers of forever or the year? I don't know. But I'll tell you what, as far as a new Marvel property, I did get pretty excited watching this trailer. Okay. Lots of good high moments. I think some like things we can dissect.
Yes.
But how about we do some general thoughts real quick? I think mine's pretty thumbs up across the board.
Yeah.
Okay? I had a good time.
This is like, I feel like of the 3 Marvel movies coming out this year, this one is the big one, kind of, right?
What are the other ones?
Thunderbolts and
Yep.
Captain
the other
America.
Oh, you're so right. I was gonna say, are you thinking Superman? That's DC, but
No,
you're right.
but I mean, Superman, that's the DC one, and maybe even the superhero one this year.
Mhm.
But
We'll
as far
see.
as Marvel goes, they're easing back into their little 3 movies a year rotation. But I feel like people are talking more so about this one because it's going to build presumably more into Secret
the overall
Wars and,
MCU.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
They're trying to
some
get
of the-
things back on track and in focus,
which is what we desperately need for the MCU.
need. You got to take 2 steps back to take 1 step forward, or whatever.
Yep.
So,
But let's talk about this
speaking
trailer.
of, we're going back
Yeah.
in time
Ooh.
to a different era.
What do we think?
I definitely dig the look and the aesthetic of it. I like kind of the kind of almost Mad Men style of dress and everything. I like that different take on it. It keeps it fresh. We're not dealing with that like gritty Fantastic Four that we got in 2016 or whatever the hell that was, 2014.
Oh God, we'll talk about that forever.
Yeah, exactly. But overall, I like the look of it. I will say it didn't really give me anything too exciting, except for one moment at the end, which obviously we'll talk about. But overall, it felt like, pretty standard. I want to talk about the actors and the looks and everything, in particular Pedro Pascal. I'm saying it out loud so we do address that.
Oh, don't worry. I have it written down. We're good.
Perfect. All right. So overall, like solid. Again, I like the aesthetic, and I hope it just builds.
Just to piggyback off of the aesthetics for a second,
Yeah.
I was a guy that was like, I don't know about this whole like 60s era Marvel.
Miguel hates a period piece, ladies and gentlemen.
Listen, I'm not even going to sit here in front. Okay. Like, yeah, sometimes I do. All right. I'll try to get better about
costumes,
it. But
blah.
no. But yeah, also.
But
kind
also,
of.
yeah.
I get it. Listen,
Yeah.
sometimes you just got to like speak your truth. Even if it's not good. But no, I was a little nervous about this whole 60s thing because you know what I was thinking of was Iron Man was the first big MCU project, right? Okay.
Right.
And then Captain America came out and what was his title? The First Avenger, right?
Oh, sure, yeah.
And then, right? He was the first one. Is that what they
Right.
called it?
Yes.
Okay. And then Captain Marvel comes out and wouldn't you know it, she's been around even longer than or whatever. Like her movie was supposed to
So
take
it's like
place
from the 80s.
before the mainstream Marvel thing. And so then here we are again. So, and you guys that know me, I've said it before, Ed, like I'm not a big fan of prequels either. Like I hate when the space is filled with this much and then they go, well, what about this part before?
Right.
Like, well, if it was so important, why didn't you just do it already? You know? So I hate when we try to like fill in those spaces. It kind of becomes a lot. I'm sorry, I'm talking too much.
No.
I was nervous coming into it, but when I finally saw the trailer and I saw the vibe that they were doing with the 60s era Marvel and really kind of like leaning into that comic book style from that era, I just bought in right away. The music is fantastic. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be an asshole by saying that. The music is really good.
You can say fantastic. It's okay.
But you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying.
It's something in you.
Yeah, and something has changed. We'll talk about
that. Look it up.
But yeah, it does look really good. I like that they're doing something different with it. It feels different. It doesn't feel just like the humdrum. And I'm going to talk about a little bit later with another trailer about how this again,
humdrum.
But this really feels. Hey, if it's a Marvel property and they're doing something different, I'll take it. You know?
Yeah, totally. And that it does look so grounded. You could tell like they're putting, you assume, a lot of energy into making this one look clean.
Yes. This one has to hit because they know. We all know. Like how many Fantastic Four movies have there been that just really have not resonated with audiences?
On top of that, but like with the promise again of kind of getting back on track and making sure that this realigns. I guess there is the multiverse element of it all too.
Which there's actually some shots in here that I want to talk about. But go ahead.
Yeah, great. Let's dive into specifics. But I think overall, we're digging on the vibe.
Yes,
it's putting up.
Just a quick button on that quick thought is there's definitely some multiverse thing happening. You can't go from Fantastic Four in the 60s to present day without there being some leap.
Exactly.
Okay? there has to be something. Galactus or Galacticus?
Galactus.
Luis would know, and he would correct me right now. He's shouting at his screen right now.
Galacticus is the...
I think that's the one I fucked up before. It's Galactus.
Yeah, because you were saying Maximactus. No, you weren't.
Hell yeah. No, hell yeah. That's what I say all the time. Maximactus.
Galactus on me. It is Galactus.
But there is no way that we can take it from that time period to the present day Marvel, especially when they're talking about Doomsday, Secret Wars.
Right.
We already know that there's going to be this big wrap up to the multiverse. It's going to be an element here. You do see a shot of Reed Richards. What's his name? Yeah. He's at the chalkboard, and someone pointed out that in the background of the chalkboard, it's like a big long one. Okay, imagine like one of those like really stretched out monitors.
Yeah.
But in the '60s, it's a chalkboard, and there's like a reference to like this like void universe or whatever. Okay. He's drawing it out on the chalkboard. He's trying to figure out how to get there, much like Tony Stark was figuring out the time travel.
Yeah. Oh, I see.
And
I've got the trailer in front of me, and I'm
there. You go. It's in the background there. Yeah. So clearly there is going to be some sort of element there. I assume my biggest. I mean, I've seen it online, so this is not just mine, but I assume what the prediction is going to be is that they're not going to win in this movie, right? They can't beat the big bad.
Yeah.
In this one movie. Now that is kind of a Marvel track record, right? Of them wasting big bads, but it's like this one is kind of the one you don't want to fuck up. So
sure, okay, I could see that. Or ending kind of like on a Endgame. No, not Endgame. Infinity War like cliffhanger.
Exactly. Where it's like, oh shit, this is not going to go well for them. We need them to come into the present day. We need the merging of everything to wrap it all up. You know,
right?
But some specifics I want to talk about. Let's get into the trailer.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so the very first kind of shot, they're coming into the Baxter building. Okay, did you notice anything about this when they were walking in there? Did you feel anything?
No.
Wow. Okay.
Explain why I should.
So when they walk into that building, I feel like it looks very familiar. It feels very familiar to the Stark Tower, the Avengers Tower.
I see. Yes.
And if you look at the layout of the building from the inside and also the outside shot,
for sure,
it is very much that Avengers building. And we're talking about in the present day MCU that someone buys Stark Tower after the Avengers move, to the facility, but they've never talked about what that is. So now this is obviously a different timeline, but it's like what's going to merge, what's going to happen.
They're going to jump forward in time and buy a new,
and it's either going to be Fantastic Four or it's going to be Oscorp taking over or something like that. You know what I mean? There's some entity coming into the present day MCU Avengers building, but if you look at the Baxter building in this trailer, that is very much what it looks like.
Yeah,
and just maybe a different timeline of events. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, no, I like that. Way to have the connections ready to go, Miguel.
So that's all I'm talking about for the Baxter building. It's clearly like, to me, I'm picking up Avengers Tower vibes.
Yeah, and looking at it in that context, that 100% makes sense. Because like when you first see their tower, the Baxter Tower, or whatever
they call it, something Baxter something building or something.
It's that same kind of setup that you got with the Avengers Tower. So yeah, 100%. Okay.
Immediately after that, though, because they're doing this, like he sets up like we're gonna have Sunday dinner every Sunday at 7 p.m. whatever, and then it cuts to we see the Thing for the first time. Okay,
right.
So a lot of talk has been said about this like CGI of the Thing. Did you feel any type of way about that?
Definitely, the texture of it felt animated, but not,
let me ask you this,
wholly in a distracting way. Like I liked the look of it. I like the retro look of him.
Yes. Like the big brow and everything.
And the brow, yeah. That looks nice.
I do like that, and I like he's wearing clothes up to the neck.
Yeah,
because again, it does give that kind of retro comic booky feel, which I dig. Especially, obviously, that's what they're all going for, but it works in my mind.
I also think the sound design in those moments sound really good. Like he claps his hands and it feels very like thud, thud, thud.
Yeah,
Even when he sticks his pinky in his mouth and it's like two stones rubbing against each other, you know? So I like the sound design. I think the CGI looks fine. I like it, especially for this like early trailer. Let me ask you this. Compare it to the dog in Superman.
Okay.
Like think about the thing in this movie.
Yeah.
And the dog in Superman, both the trailers.
Yeah.
You had some thoughts about that dog.
I did have some thoughts about that dog.
It did feel very CGI. It does not look like a real animal.
Right. And you're lacking the weighty feel of it. You know, that's always the thing with the animals. If you're not doing something like motion capture, you're not capturing that weight. So, I guess seeing him more, obviously we're seeing him stationary, but no, I will say I wasn't offended by it. I thought it looked good for what it was.
And I think beyond that shot,
it's a fine line right now, but like as far as like Marvel movies go, already like solid. It looks solid. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So,
and we see several of the shots of the thing throughout the trailer, and I just think he looks really good for what we're doing here.
Yeah,
especially for our first trailer. You know,
right?
We still have like 6 months to go until this comes out, and they're going to fine tune it a million more times. Yep. So we'll see. I thought it looked pretty good. I know people on the internet were a little whatever about it.
Well, everybody's always going to have an opinion about something, as we all know.
No, don't get me started, okay? But one of the other... Yeah, go ahead.
Well, yeah, let's move on to another cast member.
Well, yeah, I want to talk about cast and I want to talk about powers, okay? So how about let's do cast first. First off, Ed, could you name the whole cast for me? Because I can only think Pedro Pascal's name.
Okay, so we got, Pedro Pascal is Reed Richards. We've got Frank Grimes. Nope, that's the character's name, isn't it?
His name is Ben Grimes. Okay?
Ben Grimes, Frank Grimes, Ben Grimes.
But the actor's name is Ebon.
Ebon Moss-Bachrach.
There it is.
Is that right? Okay. Joseph Quinn.
Yep.
As Johnny Storm. And Vanessa Kirby.
Oh, Vanessa Kirby.
Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm. Their brother and sister.
Did you know that?
I did not.
So, just like how much Fantastic Four knowledge do you have?
Not much, because and I don't. Clearly, I blocked that 2014 movie from my mind.
But you saw it.
I did see it, but I didn't see the other ones, so I'm not very well versed.
You never saw the 2000s one?
Yeah, with Ian Griffith and.
I think you would. I think you should watch
Jessica
the first
Alba.
one.
Yeah,
I think it's like fun to watch it.
I bet it would be fun. If I could go back and watch like Daredevil and shit like that, I can watch that one. Remember when we were going back and rewatching?
We were doing that. I was going to say before our podcast, you guys, we just as friends were going to watch all those early MCU movies,
and it just kind of petered off at some movie.
We got distracted. Life happens. Okay, Ed's had 2 babies since then.
It was MCU everywhere all the time.
Come on. So great cast. All right, I think this is a really solid cast. I know Luis, he's not here to talk shit, but I'll bring it up for him. He was not digging that Johnny Storm casting. He Joseph Quinn. He was kind of talking shit about him. In the
I've yet to feel won over by him. I'll be honest. Right. I think he has psychopath eyes.
Go on.
Makes him very like cold as an actor. I don't know. I didn't totally love him in Gladiator 2. I didn't see A Quiet Day Part 1 or whatever.
Quiet Place Part 1.
Quiet Place
or Stranger Things.
A Quiet Place Day 1. That's what I meant.
Right. Yeah.
And no, Stranger Things 2. At least not when he arrives. So
basically what you're saying is you have not been won over by him yet. And
not
this
yet.
may or may not be the
this
one.
This may or may not. And I know the character of Johnny Storm. I get the idea of him. Cocky.
Yeah.
He lights up.
Yep. He does.
Yeah. But there's that moment where she walks in on him in the astronaut suit, and I'm like, okay, he's a little rascal. Vanessa Kirby, I'm on board for. Again, it seems, Sue Storm generally feels like a boring character, but
oh my god.
Am I wrong on that?
Yeah, you're wrong. Okay.
Okay. Maybe I just don't know the extent of her powers. Maybe she's like the Jean Grey or
The thing is it doesn't matter about any of their powers, which it does obviously, but it doesn't, because every single one of them could be, depending on how you look at the family, any one of them could be the glue. Okay,
sure.
Like,
right.
and they're making that point through this whole trailer. Like Ben Grimes has always been the rock, right? Like he's always been the center, and she's always there, you know. And Reed Richards is super smart, you know. Like they all lead the team in their own way, you know. Right. They all bring each other together. They all hone in together, and that's what makes them the perfect family. Okay, come on.
They do mention family a lot. Yeah, I got that.
I was talking to Kristen about it, and she was just like, she said something about the family, and I was like, but that's not them making that up for this movie. Like they are Marvel's first family. Like that's how their moniker or whatever.
Right, and not just like as in like a presidential status. It's like they are. Right,
they are. Yeah.
So it's like an even split on this cast. Like I'm on board for Vanessa Kirby and Ebon.
Okay, so it's Pedro Pascal you're a little worried about.
You know, I wouldn't say worried, but we do just seem to be at this point where
he's in everything.
He's in everything, and he doesn't alter that much from role to role. And don't get me wrong, I love Pedro Pascal. I think he's a good actor and everything, but if there is such a thing as oversaturation, and we're just like, he's everywhere. Like
he's a busy
Star
boy.
Wars, Marvel,
The Last of Us.
He was in DC. The Last of Us, which is we're just about to get. Game of Thrones, like I'll never criticize it. That was like his introduction for me anyway. But like all at once, yes. And he just did Gladiator 2 in frankly a thankless role that he didn't need to play.
But that wasn't his fault, you know.
No, but it is that thing of just hiring people even if they're not right for the role. The wild robot, you know, just for the sake of the name. Like, yes, he's lovable, and yes, he will bring in an audience, you know. But it's a fine line, and right now they're really overdoing it. He's just like one casting call away from being in the next Jurassic Park film. You know what I mean?
Hang on, we'll talk about it. Let's talk about the thing. Let's talk for Pedro Pascal's sake. Let's talk about the powers in this trailer for a second. We saw Sue Storm's powers. Right. We saw Ben Grimes' powers. We saw Johnny Storm's powers. It's the Fantastic Four, baby, not the three. Okay, Where was Pedro Pascal? We didn't see him stretch not once as Mr. Fantastic. One of the things I read was they're tweaking it a little bit, and the idea of trailers in general is the thing you see the least of is usually the thing that they're not as proud of. You know what I mean? Yeah. That was like a thought that I read today. And so it's like, okay, how many times have you seen, you know, Mr. Fantastic stretch on screen, and it just looks a little silly, you know?
I mean, there's no way around it, right?
No,
that's the thing.
You have to buy in.
And it's a hard thing to sell. I don't envy anybody who does.
Well, that's the thing about Pedro Pascal is like I could see him playing this character, Reed Richards, but once you start stretching him and you make him look the superhero silliness, it feels a little silly, you know.
It's you just want to go back and just be like, Stan. What else you got? What else you got?
Speaking about the Baxter Building, someone pointed out, they were like, "Oh my God, we didn't see Reed Richards the entire time." And then someone linked the picture of the Baxter Building from the outside, and it's blue and white on the outside. Yeah. And they were like, "Oh, that's just Reed Richards stretching over the building."
That's funny. That's good.
And all of a sudden I was like, yeah, that would be like a sneaky way. Let's get him on the screen doing it.
It's like he's there. Oh yeah, he's there.
He's protecting the building. No, I don't know. We'll see as far as powers go. We did see some good ones. I mean, like,
and that's okay. You want to hide it. You want to hold back a little bit too. Like some things sell better on the big screen. But
let's see it. You know,
yeah, I have no doubt. Yes, they are probably still tweaking it. It's got to sing when it shows. You know,
I thought obviously the easiest thing. I think the two easy things of Fantastic Four is the guy's the Rock and the guy's on fire, and it's just like, yeah, they fly around, they clobber, Like those are pretty standard. Those are kind of easy superhero
Right.
like tropes to fill. Him stretching and her turning invisible, I think those are things that are kind of difficult to sell.
Yeah.
Her other thing is like she's got the force field or whatever, and we do see a little bit of that.
Yeah.
But at one point she's just like, rah. You know, she just like puts her little arm up, and you're like, okay, all right, yeah, sure, you're doing something, you know.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see. How
Presumably,
both
we're
those feel.
seeing them kind of get used to their powers too, a little bit.
Yes.
So there'll be some,
Couple
transition.
of last minute thoughts on this trailer before we move on.
Let's wrap it up.
So, real quick, did you know John Malkovich was in this movie?
No, that was a surprise.
Fuck no.
Do you
That
know who
surprised
he
the
is?
shit out of me. Now, that's what I want to get into. Thank you, Ed, for leading me up into that. Thank you, okay? So, apparently there's a couple, like 2 or 3 different comic book characters that he could be based on his look, based on his age, and based on the movie that he's in, okay? And that's important knowledge, okay? I'm not just pulling it out of my ass.
No,
okay?
sure, yeah.
But and I couldn't name all of them right now, but some of the theory is that he is either a Reed Richards variant from the future. He's one of the original Reed Richards.
Whoa.
But there's also a character where Reed Richards and I don't know who, it might be Sue Storm, where they have a child who grows up into the future of the MCU,
and that's him.
And that could potentially be him as well.
Boy.
So there is some kind of like question about the only reason I connect the two though is if you're watching the trailer, the moment John Malkovich shows up, they immediately cut to Reed Richards right after that, where Reed doesn't say anything. It's visual only. It's boom, boom, and then move on. And so it's like, okay, why did we connect those two visually? What's the connection?
Interesting.
They're also saying that based on his look, he could be like some other comic book bad guy. You know what I mean? Like one of those like throwaway for the movie bad guys.
Right. To the bigger bad.
Exactly. Like he ushers in something and then,
right.
you know, whatever. So I think at this point it's too early to tell. No one knows. But I would be curious to see the connection between him and Reed Richards just because of the shots in the trailer.
Yeah.
But the big bad, if we're going to talk literally the big bad of this movie, is Galactus. Okay. And we're seeing him for the first time in the MCU. This is a super big MCU villain. He is so big that he can eat planets.
Right.
Yet we see him in this movie and he's slightly taller than the Statue of Liberty, which indicates a little bit of like Ant-Man, a little bit of size changing is going to happen.
I'm sure he can switch.
Oh, huge, big. We can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
There is some thought about
nice
the fact
shot,
that they're bringing back Eternals, what are those called? Celestials in Captain America's Brave New World. Okay.
Yes.
We're getting more of that brought in. We're going to see this big bad in this movie. All of this kind of leading into Doomsday and Secret Wars, and what does all that mean? You know.
Right.
But Galactus, man, played by what's his name, Ed?
Ralph Ineson.
Guys, woof, he is going to kill. This one of those roles.
I can't wait.
There's
I can
there's
already
a couple.
Hear his voice.
Oh,
I'm
he's
sure
got
they're going to do
this.
something, but it's just like so heavy.
He's got this deep, booming voice. He is absolutely going to do. There was a time when I think Javier Bardem was rumored.
That makes sense.
And then there was also that moment where they were talking about maybe Denzel Washington, because they were trying to throw Denzel Washington,
or Pedro Pascal
before he was right. I think Javier Bardem would have been really good.
I see that too. He also has like a deep kind of foreboding voice.
But I just think this guy Ralph and what's his name?
Innocent. I think that's how you pronounce it.
I hope I'm saying it right. Yeah. I've seen him in enough things that I totally buy him as the
when they announced it was the one that was just most like yes.
Oh yeah. Perfect.
Like as soon as they said it. Yeah. The Fantastic Four cast, debatable, but that one
that's surprising. So let me ask you this. We'll wrap it up on this. Oh, hang on. One last thing before we wrap it up.
Yeah.
The score of this trailer was so good. Okay.
I need to listen to it again because you've mentioned it a few times now, and I need to just.
Well, I don't know if you remember. We got a sneak peek of it. Luis was at like the Hollywood Bowl about 6 months ago or something, where Marvel was doing it, and they ended the show previewing the score for Fantastic Four, and it sounded so good. It's Michael Giacchino. I hope I'm saying that right. He's done so much music in Hollywood over the last
especially
20
for
years.
Marvel.
Yeah. Oh, and he is really making a name for himself. I think he's becoming a household name. Even though I didn't say it right just now. But he previewed the music, and then the chorus, the choir, they come in and they sing Fantastic Four. And man, the first time I heard it, and even in this trailer as well, it's just like chills come over me.
They're definitely leaning, or they're allowing him to lean more into those kind of themes like they did. They went back to the classic theme of Spider-Man and stuff. Like that kind of campiness about it, but also kind of stirring, exciting.
It's almost like we're getting out of this like Infinity Saga MCU, and now they're like, what if we like embrace the golden age,
right?
The silver and golden age of comic books, you know?
Yeah, 100%.
But just real quick, last thoughts. Like, what do you think? Are you into this movie? Are you? I am. How do you feel?
I'm curious. I'm curious more than anything. And obviously, we're going to see 2 or 3 more trailers, maybe. I'm
not watching any more trailers.
I might watch one more. Yeah.
No, see,
I need to be sold a little more. I'll say this. Obviously, I'm gonna see it. This is like one of the event Marvels of the year. Yeah. I'm already more interested than I am for Captain America. I'm sorry to say. What did you think I was going to say?
I thought you were going to spoil the next the trailer we're going to.
Oh no! But you know what I mean. I'm just because we are at that stage with Marvel. I'm at that stage with Pedro Pascal apparently. But I want it to be good for for us, the rest to follow are going to be worth waiting for. Like we need that push in the right direction. And I know they've taken their time with this one, respectively, I guess. Mm-hmm. But it looks good aesthetically. I am, like I said, I'm excited and curious to see what they do with Galactus, especially like you mentioned the Eternals. You know how big of a fan I am of that and all of that. I mean,
yeah, that had to have been a setup all the way from back then. Like, why even introduce the Celestials if we're not going to bring in these like
Galactus,
these super worldly
beings?
Yeah. Exactly. So
it'll be interesting. How big of a correction course it will be, but also how much they're going to rely on the audience to figure out for themselves.
Word of mouth. Oh yeah. We'll see.
And I'm going to go back and listen to that score.
Awesome. Okay, you guys, Fantastic Four first steps. If you guys are into it, let us know down below. What were your thoughts?
Miguel, if you had seen this like a month ago or whatever, would this be on your most anticipated of the year?
Yeah, I guess I didn't really have it on my list previously.
Yeah, I don't think any of us did.
I was really trying not to put superhero movies, but also, no, it hadn't come out yet, so we hadn't seen it. I am into it. I would say, arguably, Marvel and DC, the ones that I want to see are Superman and Fantastic Four.
Yeah. You're feeling more reassured, though, now?
I think so. There was definitely some shots in it that I was just like, I'm into this. I want to see this. And in the same way that Captain America, First Avenger, Wonder Woman, the very first Wonder Woman, it's like superhero movies when they play with the earlier timelines, even though I hate prequels, okay?
Yeah.
But it's like they set them up just to introduce them, and then they bring them into the main fold.
And sometimes it can be fun pulling. It's like a fish out of water, like
exactly
a person of that time. You know, if they do it well,
and if they give it the Infinity War treatment where they lose, and if you watch the trailer, the citizens love the Fantastic Four. They're into them. They're heroes. They look up to them. The kids are literally looking up to them, wearing the masks and things like that. So the idea that they introduce a team that's just beloved right away, and then maybe wipes them out, pulls the rug out from under them in the very first run. I think that could be interesting, especially for what does that mean for the MCU in general moving forward. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm into it. I wish it all the best. Let's see.
Good.
So you guys let us know down below if you guys are interested in Fantastic Four first steps. We're gonna
that's coming out this summer, July 25th.
That's right, July 25th. It's going to be Superman, Fantastic Four, Jurassic World Rebirth, all kind of in a run. And in fact, bringing up Jurassic World, Ed, baby, we were graced with two big trailers this week: Fantastic Four and Jurassic World Rebirth. So we got to watch a trailer today. They led up to it with a couple of teasers of the teaser.
Yeah.
In fact, I would call this trailer, I think they're calling it the teaser trailer. Is that how you felt after you watched the trailer?
It felt like a regular first trailer.
And that felt like a real trailer, okay? Yeah. That didn't feel like a tease at all, okay?
I mean, dinosaurs scary enough, right? To quote Chris Pratt.
That's right.
From
what kind of dinosaurs do they cook up in that lab?
They're dinosaurs. Scary enough, or wow enough.
Guys, Jurassic World Rebirth, can I just go ahead and lay it out there? Let me say the very first thing is this was on one of my my list for anticipated movies of the year.
It was.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm gonna go ahead and just get out right in front of it here, okay? That was before the trailer came out.
Switch it out with Fantastic Four.
Did I really want this movie to excite me and be ready to go for it? I want something that's going to take us away from the Jurassic World movies we just saw. And then this trailer came out.
Yes, it did.
Man, I'll just say this. It just felt like another Jurassic World movie, and it is kind of too soon. Like we acted like, oh, we're going to shift forward and we're going to change it up and we're going to this, we're going to that. And then they just kept making references to all the other movies. And it's like, I would have loved for this to be a soft reboot. You know, I would have loved for this to not mention any of the things that happened in the previous 3 movies, you know, but they just could not help themselves. I'm not going to lie. Some of the cast, the 3 main cast members, I was looking forward to them until I heard all the fucking dialogue. And then I was like, cool.
I got one word to describe it, Miguel.
Let's hear it.
It's going to be hokey.
Oh.
A little hokey.
You're so right, Ed. I hate to admit it.
But it really was one after the other.
They wouldn't stop.
Yeah, you've basically just said everything that I was going to say.
Sorry.
I'm glad we're on the same page. I was really gonna dread having to break it to you, but it just felt like it just felt so similar to the last 3 Jurassic Worlds.
Yes.
In tone, in look, in stakes, like we've got Gareth Edwards coming in to direct, which gave me some kind of hope. And you got a good cast here. It's not like it's a bad cast. You got Mahershala Ali, Scarlett Johansson, Rupert Friend, and Jonathan Bailey. The headliners. But it's just like you've just kind of gathered another fistful of pretty people, really hot people, and thrown them in Jurassic Park again.
And I mean, I don't mean to spoil too much of what you're going to say, but the fact that they were like, oh, and there's another island. It's like
another island. Oh my god! I've heard that before. And it's just going to be a quick trip, and nobody would go there because they're out of their fucking mind. We've heard this. We've done this. Like, if you're going to do it, like, I don't know. But just when they started getting into the action of it all, like even when they revealed the first dinosaurs with that big long tail. First off, I don't know what dinosaur that is, but that looks like not a real dinosaur.
And then, okay, I've got a note here that just says again, and it's you could you put that to every aspect of this trailer, okay?
Yeah. Because this is where they designed the dinosaurs for the first Jurassic Park. You're talking. You might as well just say like, "Oh yeah, this was in the first movie."
Exactly, and it's just like let's regurgitate all these talking points, all these dinosaurs, and then the thing I fucking hate the most is we genetically engineered these dinosaurs. Okay, I just don't give a fuck. All right, that was the premise already. Why do we talk about it every single time?
Yeah.
It's like if every Batman movie, right, was like, oh, and then his parents were killed when he was.
Did you know?
Like, I know. Okay,
I fucking know.
I read a tweet. Let me put it into perspective. Okay, this movie's not for us. All right, this movie's not for the people that have gone through it. It's not for the people that have lived these Jurassic World movies.
Right.
Okay, from the beginning.
For a new.
I saw a tweet the other day that just said, "Oh my God, Beyonce was in a girl group." And that's how you know
that was a long time ago.
we are old, okay? And these youngins are coming up and they're just experiencing media through their first time, okay? And it's like, this is going to really resonate with someone who hasn't watched. Think about when they were, do you remember when Fede Alvarez was talking about he was auditioning people for the Alien Romulus movie?
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, what was your, they would be like, oh, I fucking love the Alien movies. He was like, what was your favorite one? And they were like,
Prometheus.
oh yeah, my first one was Prometheus. And you're like, okay, well, that wasn't the first one at all, you know?
I didn't discover the old one until I get it. Like, we are old. But to your point, Miguel, I will say this. You kind of just pointed this out yourself.
Thank you.
And we've been kind of talking about it with, Marvel superhero movies in general. The Jurassic movies especially have kind of lost their wow factor.
1,000%.
Because the last one only just came out 3 years ago.
Exactly.
And you're just like,
post-COVID.
It just feels like a part of that one we just had. We literally just had it. So it doesn't feel like it's new or refreshing. It doesn't even look like they're trying to do that. It looks just like a good old continuation, another scenario, new people. Yep. And which is boring, it's a little. It is boring. It's disappointing. It's fucking dinosaurs. It should be exciting.
Yeah.
And the fact that, like, we were just talking about, the visuals in Fantastic Four. I'm not saying that the visuals necessarily look bad, but they don't look anything exceptional to where you're feeling the weight or the terror of these dinosaurs. No. Now, I will say, to its credit, there were maybe one or two moments where I was just like, oh, maybe. But I already know where it's going to go, kind of thing. Yeah, one was like the big pterodactyl, for lack of a better word. I don't know the pterodactyl.
But whatever.
The giant one. And, that's pretty intimidating. And then the Mosasaurus.
And you've been looking forward to that. You've mentioned that before, where I've
mentioned that before. Like, I want them to do something good with it.
That water dinosaur.
The water dinosaur, but
I get it.
Make it into like a terror sequence.
Just to give you a little bit of, just to tag on what you're saying, is apparently in the Jurassic Park book. Okay.
Yes.
There's a whole sequence where they're traveling down the river on a raft, and like a T-Rex is chasing them, and it does feel like they're adapting that sequence for this movie
with the T-Rex bit.
The T-Rex, but also leading into, you kind of have to imagine
then they going out into the ocean,
into the water, exactly, and then and then the Spinosauruses, all of a sudden those have so many of them. And that's the other thing too.
Well, that's the other thing. They mention them teaming up.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm like, why am I thinking of Jurassic Park 3 and then thinking, oh yeah, that was a better of a movie than Jurassic World 2, Jurassic World 3.
I mean,
like, because they were still using that kind of visual effects where it looked effective and a little scary. I remember, watching it at that age, I was maybe 12 or 13 when Jurassic Park 3 came out. But I still got like a kid. I could tell it wasn't as good as the originals, but it was still good.
We didn't know what we had when we saw that
exactly.
one. We thought, oh, this movie sucks, because you compare it to the first two, and people really, you could find people that dog on the second one too. But I really think the first two,
I don't get it, but
the first one's perfect.
Yes,
the second one is really good,
entertaining.
The third one is kind of on its own, doing its thing.
But it is kind of laying the ground for the Jurassic World that came.
I know.
You're introducing bigger and scarier dinosaurs. The Spinosaurus aegypticus worked because it's a real dinosaur. But if you keep adding it, I told you I really liked Jurassic Park 3 when that came out.
No, I remember that moment. Yeah.
But yeah, it was.
Listen, I'm gonna give it a go. I just feel like the trailer didn't inspire me, but I
might
feel
not even give it a go.
We talk about I totally respect that. Okay, but I feel like we say this every time one of these goddamn movies comes out. It's just like, just be scary, like truly. It is, the stakes don't have to be raised on some sort of like corporate level, right? Where the movie has to make $1 billion. The movie needs to be scary, you know? And I think that's what worked with Alien Romulus, is there were moments in that movie, whether you liked it or not,
there
were moments that were genuinely terrifying
because it
okay
embraced, like, yes, embrace the look. There's a way to embrace everything without making
just
like,
copy and paste it, you know?
yeah, like sell it, fucking sell
Yeah.
it, get creative with it, but embrace the technical elements that made it work the first time.
Yes.
And lean on it. But like the more dinosaurs, just adding more dinosaurs does not necessarily make it scary.
No, it's like I don't even have an example, but it's just like we don't need just more. You know?
Don't keep adding them. Don't make up dinosaurs either.
Oh my god, it's every time we made a fucking new one.
Yeah,
these were the ones that were rejected for Jurassic Park. It's like, oh fuck,
I hate that. You're saying you might not even give it a shot. I've said this before.
I
but
mean,
there was
it really will depend on the next couple of months.
I know, I get it, but there was a moment when so I've said it before. My wife and I, we saw Jurassic World, the first one.
Yes.
A ton of times in theaters. We had a good time. Am I saying it's a good movie? Whatever. We had a good time watching it. Okay.
Yeah.
So we went and we saw the second one, not Dominion, Fallen Kingdom, Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom. Okay. And at the end of that movie, I just remember, and I know I've said this before, I looked to my wife and I said, I don't think I want to watch any of these movies in theaters anymore. You know, It's just this was not a good experience. And then when we finally sat down and we watched Dominion at home, I turned it off halfway through because I was just like, this movie is unfortunately just dog shit. Okay. and that's just my opinion. I'm not trying to shit on the creatives that made it or whatever, but it's just like, no, it's just each of these movies got so much worse. And you go back and you watch Jurassic Park today. You can watch Jurassic Park and you're like, fuck me, this is one of the best movies of all time.
And it's still kind of scary, you know.
It is. And so I was really looking forward to this one because what I wanted, that rebirth, right? What I wanted was, let's move forward. Let's get away from this. Let's try to get back to our roots. Let's try to make this something that works. And then we get this trailer and it's just the most ham-fisted dialogue.
It's so vanilla. It's just bland.
Absolute. Yeah. I don't mean, this is, I don't know, but like Scarlett Johansson has that line where Mahershala Ali, the shot right before is he's waving the fucking red flare. Okay. I've seen that a million times. He's waving it around and she goes, Duncan.
Yeah.
And he's just like, oh man, that just didn't feel like a moment. And maybe that was the editing of the trailer. I'm not trying to really put it on her, but it's just like, man, this did not feel good at all.
Yeah. Oh, she has that. I mean, it's not necessarily her fault. We all know Scarlett Johansson can act.
Exactly.
That line earlier, and Jonathan Bailey and Rupert Friend are really ham-fisting the American accent.
Which one's Rupert Friend again?
He's the guy who I guess is trying to hire them all together to
go.
Ugh. I like Rupert Friend. He's a good actor, and I know he is, but his American accent is so hokey in this.
Rupert Friend, I don't know if that's the same guy, but he looked like the guy from Nip Tuck, who was also Doctor Doom and Fantastic Four.
No,
that's not,
I
that's
get
not
that,
him, right?
It's not him, no.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. Okay.
But he, but there's that line of dialogue which is like, I'll keep you safe, or I'll do my best, or whatever.
That's not very comforting.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man!
Let me adjust my circle glasses.
Jonathan Bailey, you had me at Wicked, but now you lost me at Jurassic World.
God, I just really wanted it. I know, and we'll talk about Wicked later. But I want this to be good, and it just does not feel good.
So far, not so good. Yeah, I will say. Hey, our opinion can change over a few months. They might have another trailer. We'll see, but.
You know who I want to hear from down below in the comments? Okay. I want to hear from the person that's like, I love all of these movies.
Keep them coming.
I read a thread the other day where a guy was like, you know what? My favorite Batman movie was The Dark Knight Rises. Okay. I want to hear more from that type of opinion. Okay. I need to know that
dissenting opinions, basically.
Exactly. I need to know someone that's like, I fucking love Jurassic World. I wish Chris Pratt would show up in this movie.
I'm dead afraid that somehow.
No, they'll have a cameo, right? Where
it's just gonna be blue. God.
There's that shot where they're like, "Is it raptors?" He's like, "It's raptors." And
it's gonna be like
raptors. She's gonna be like, "I'm blue."
I'm surprised somebody didn't say like, "I got a bad feeling about this" or something like that. Don't move.
All right. Well,
Anyway, Jurassic World 3, 4 is coming soon.
5, 6.
Yeah.
You've seen it before.
It's a new trilogy.
Let us know down below.
We're going back to the basics of Jurassic World.
It's a quick last one. The bullshit about this very, very akin to Avatar 2 too, where they're like, oh, actually, if we take the dinosaur blood, it'll cure cancer, and you're like, ugh.
I mean, hey, it's the next frontier, right?
I guess, dude. I'm so sorry that I put it on my list a couple weeks ago, but you know what? I did it in earnest. Okay,
and you never know. This movie could come out and actually be really good. It's just
what's great.
It's a corporate trailer. You know what I mean?
What's great is if you're a studio exec, you're about to make $1 billion.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just like
good for you.
Yeah, I just need to keep making these, and I'm okay.
Let's just keep doing that.
Yeah, we'll just slap a director on it. All right.
Let's get into. I'm going to mark it now. All right, we're getting into. It's been a little bit of a long episode. We're going to wrap it up now. We've got a new segment. Okay. All right, Ed, are you excited?
I'm a little bit, and I feel like I'm going to come in with a left hook here.
I can't.
Why didn't you kick us off?
We're gonna keep it nice and tight for Luis, okay? Who's out this week, okay? But guys, welcome to our new segment. It's called Musical Moments with Miguel.
Yep.
And Ed. Okay. And Ed's also here. Okay.
And guys, I'm also a big fan of musicals. I always have been.
And really, what I would say is that's not arguable. You know, it's like Ed, we all know Ed loves a musical, but I think. Miguel's coming around.
Miguel's coming around. This is new territory for
This is new territory, okay? This is like uncharted territories, okay?
Yeah.
So I mentioned a few weeks ago that I've started watching more musicals because you guys know I talked about Wicked so much. I loved Wicked. I had a great time.
And we're going to talk about it some more.
And we're going to hear about it tonight again. But I just have been watching a few more musicals, and so I thought I would just do a really quick roundup of the musicals that I've watched and some really quick thoughts on all of them. I think we're going to bookend them with Wicked and then the last one that I want to talk about because I feel like Ed's got some new thoughts.
What's the last one you want to talk about?
Well, I got it on the list. Just read the list.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, let me put it to you this way. Do you want me to start with Wicked and then we could dive into Wicked and then the musicals that follow?
Just imagine reading the list that I already wrote out, and you would know exactly what we're doing.
That's what I think.
Let's take it from the top. Okay, go ahead. This is a musical moment with Miguel.
Miguel, you're my gravity, and I'm defying you. Okay,
and Ed. Okay, absolutely. So you guys know me. I talked about Wicked so much. 10 out of 10. Loved it. Can't wait for the second one. I've listened to the soundtrack so much. Shout out Steven, who texted us tonight and was all of a sudden talking about Wicked, and I was like, baby, where have you been? Okay, all my life. All right. But you finally sat down and watched Wicked, and I think this is a very important moment for you and me as a friend, as a friend.
Okay? Yeah.
I've seen it. You need to say all the right things.
I've seen it twice now. I've seen it maybe 2.5 times actually. Because I started watching it a little bit more prior to this.
And I think what I would say, just a quick thought, is for every musical I watch, I think watching it more than once really helps.
Yes.
It helps solidify the opinion whether you like it or not. You know what I mean?
100%.
It helps.
It gives time for the songs to sink in. You know, you got to catch
the choices that they're making. Yeah,
you got to catch a lot lyrically, etc. Which was definitely the case. And I'm going to say this right off the bat: I didn't see this movie in the theater. I watched it at home the first.
I think
time.
that's fine. I think that's fine.
No, I know, but I think there are certainly some moments that would have felt better and more impactful.
I'm sure there's listeners that are like, why didn't you see it on Broadway, you fuck? All right. So
who has the time or the money? Movies are cheap in that regard. So look, this is what I'm going to do, Miguel. We're going to just bite the bullet. I'm going to list off my negatives.
I love it. Just
and then we're going to go right into the positives, and then we're going to just talk about this movie.
I love it. Let's go.
All right. Look, I know you like it a lot. But the opening song, listening to it again and
you're
again.
Wrong. Immediately you're wrong. Okay. That's good to know. I love the fact that you're starting off stupid. Okay. Go ahead, Ed.
I found it grating. I find it grating every time. It's
I'm going to give you space.
I know it's all exposition. I know it's like setting up everything.
It's
I have
literally the
questions-
start of the movie.
No. Well, yeah, but there's like a little element that actually starts the movie, and then it leads into the first song. And I have questions about those opening moments, really. But yeah, I don't love the first song, and every time I hear it, I don't like it anymore.
That's fair.
Not necessarily less. So anyway, one thing that I hated throughout the movie is that every number came back to, if it was like an ensemble, every number came back to just a foot stomping sequence, and not in a
Now,
good
hang
way.
on a second.
It's just like, oh well, they're dancing here, so let's just cue the sound effects for stomping. And
I would just say,
here's the thing.
Okay.
It just doesn't allow it doesn't allow any song to be unique in that sense, because each one of them, like every time, it's just like, okay, now we're stomping, and we're dancing.
I would say,
Clap.
I fully want to give you space in this moment. Okay.
Okay.
I would just say that later I'm going to talk about another musical where I feel the exact same way.
I know you are.
So
Yeah.
I acknowledge that sometimes these things do not click with the audience. Okay?
It's just a little too pointed for me. Like it was a choice.
I would also say this is when a person makes the effort to watch something multiple times and then still comes away and goes, I didn't like it. I think that's fair. You know,
Thank you.
Because like I liked it watching it multiple times, but if
I wasn't gonna watch this one time, Miguel, and just say like, no,
I hate it. Yeah, exactly.
I'm not watching it again, because that would be saying this movie doesn't have anything of merit, which I definitely don't believe. So,
but when you put in the work and then you go, hey, actually, it's not for me, I really can't argue that, and I appreciate that. Okay,
we're getting
so
there. I'm almost
shut up.
I'm almost at the end here. Okay. The last little thing, and this really hurt the ending for me, is just the visuals. The visuals. Now, listen, I'm aware culturally of Defying Gravity. I know it's a big hit, and I was looking forward to it throughout this movie. And when
she was in the air,
this is gonna, when she actually starts flying, here's the thing: and this is for any musical adaptation from Broadway to a film. It annoys me to no end, and it's not any fault of Wicked, but it just like they drag things out. They try and make it more action filled or cinematic for the sake of being cinematic. And so, in this regard, they obviously added a whole sequence of her like falling that turned into flying, and frankly, it just kind of killed the momentum of the song for me. And that's that's me as a musical lover who's enjoying the crescendo of the film. But let me say this: it's like the beginning of that song had me, because it was finally the moment, and literally got chills up and down my arm. But then the visuals just they just don't look that good. And from throughout the whole thing, her fucking cape keeps growing. Getting longer and then shorter and then longer and shorter, and it just.
I'm here acknowledging you. Okay, Ed.
Okay.
I would say so. In the Broadway show, she is on like this. I'm blanking on the word, but it's this thing that rises in the air, and then they make the cape big so that it hides the technical things. Okay, but it then becomes a visual of the play. Right, where her cape is like this big overflowing thing, defying gravity. She's flying through the time.
Yes.
All right. So in the movie, they're paying homage to that, but at the same time, it's exaggerated a little bit for the. They're making. You said it earlier. They're making it cinematic, and I would tell you this, Ed, from what I've read from like the purists online, is a lot of people agree. Because it does kill the momentum of like what they know the song to be. Yeah. And
I'm not saying it has to be like a carbon copy of the original.
For sure.
Give it some flourishes, and I know Cynthia Erivo does give it her own vocal flourishes.
Oh, and baby, she's so good. And
she is very good.
If you came in here and talked shit about any one of them, that's when I would fight you.
No.
But if you want to talk about like the cinematography of it all, I totally get it. But I would just say is like for me, I never saw Wicked. So when I
Right.
sat down and this was my first like presentation of it all,
Yeah.
and I just kind of like took it in for what it was for this. I
Right.
mean, I really bought in.
Yeah.
And I can respect someone being like, I didn't love it as much.
Okay.
So
Okay, that I mean, it does bring me into the positives and the.
Oh, I would love to hear a positive. That
And
sounds
defying,
great.
well, hey, defying gravity was like a bit of a positive because it started, like I said, when it starts, it literally, I got like goosebumps because
It's
just
so
like
same
when
way,
it hits, like something has changed, and just like that
Baby,
twinkle.
There was
I
that
get it.
moment in the theater where when I realized it was happening, I was like, oh fuck, it's happening. You know.
And I want to say that too is like I definitely think that whole scene would have played out better in a movie theater on a big screen, and that moment kind of enveloping me instead of me sitting on my couch at home.
So I that's a fair point because some of like the visuals of like that big shot of everything that's happening
makes it a bit more grand and more of a spectacle.
I saw it in a fully packed theater. One of
I
the first
bet.
times I've seen a movie like that in a long time, and people were just like struck by it all.
No, I get it. Yeah.
And so I understand that.
All right, last little quibble. I don't overplay Wicked. I don't know the book Wicked. I don't know what they do and what they don't do in the grand telling of the Wizard of Oz. So I don't know what the context is here. But if I'm supposed to feel anything for the sister, it's that I think she's a dick, and I think that she can't have a house fall on her fast enough.
Yes, baby. Yes, baby. Because it's kind of fucked up that she's like every time her sister tries to help her or doesn't help her, she's like, no, I'm going to make a point to not help her. She's capable. She can do what she wants. She can do these own things. But then she makes some pretty shitty choices in this movie. For sure.
So,
but think about being like that young, early college age kid, right?
Yeah.
Where you fall in love, the first person that gives you.
Can I just say nobody looks like they're in college in this fucking movie?
Let's talk about Jonathan Bailey for a second, okay?
Oh my God,
when that motherfucker horse rides into the screen and he's like, "I'm back at school," I'd be like, "For what?" You know, like
teaching
or to teach. You know, that man looks so old.
You're the new like coach. Okay.
Can we get to the positives? Let's go.
I'm going positives. Yeah, here we go. All right. Overall, look, Miguel, I enjoyed the film. The songs, I knew that going into the film at the beginning is like, this is just that kind of Broadway that I do not like.
And just wait until I talk about these next few movies.
I already fucking know. But no, so one thing, I went into it knowing that Cynthia Erivo is already very talented, and I didn't doubt for a second that she would be able to pull this role off. And to no surprise whatsoever, she was really good in it. But what was the surprise was Ariana Grande. And I know it's like the talk of the town, but like I do generally, she's just contagiously enjoyable in this.
So good.
It's
so
like
good.
even... I would still be curious to see what her acting career looks like after this. But if it was just this, I would like, bravo. Like, she did it perfectly as what I imagined this character to be. She nails it. And vocally, she's obviously very talented, but she steals most of the scenes. Some of my favorite songs are her songs.
Can I ask you this?
Yeah.
How did you feel? You know that moment where she was like, "Oh, I just feel so." I can't remember what she was set up, but she like flops on the bed.
Yeah,
with her whole body.
I shared a really big secret with you, and then because she flops.
Yeah. That was when I was like, man. Obviously, like all the songs, the voice, the whatever she's doing, but it was little moments like that. Dear Momsy and Popsicle, like you can't reply because this is a letter. Like she is.
And I try to rise above it. You just buy it. You buy the character. She does a really.
One of the things I really appreciate about her and Cynthia, I'm gonna talk about Cynthia in a minute, okay?
Yeah.
But one of the things I loved about Ariana Grande is she was in the middle of a tour. And she got wind that she might audition for Wicked. And she told all of her staff, her management, whatever. She said, I will cancel this entire tour if it means that I can audition for this movie and maybe get to play this role.
Yeah.
And then she got it, and she got an acting coach, and she got, obviously she can sing. but she like made sure that this character didn't sound just like typical Ariana Grande, like pop music voice,
or like
and
a replica of the stage.
And take it all the way back to, I'm just going to sound random, but like think about Heath Ledger as Joker. One of the things I've said so many times is you didn't see Heath Ledger in that role.
Right.
You saw the Joker.
Yeah.
And that's what was happening here with Ariana Grande. She was not Ariana Grande. She was Galinda.
Yeah.
You know? And when especially when a celebrity of that stature, and you could say ego and whatever comes into play, to go, no, I'm going to throw all that away and I'm going to be this person.
Yeah. Well,
like, that's something to commend.
Yeah. No, totally. And I mean, for me, like I said, I'm not as familiar with her. I didn't really follow her music. The one thing I've seen her in was maybe Don't Look Up. And so I had nothing to go on other than I thought she was more of a musician than an actor.
Yeah,
so
she did like a Disney Channel show, like that was her thing. She did that.
Prior to seeing this, the only other thing I guess I'll mention because it's relevant was the her appearance on SNL most recently.
Yes. Oh,
which she was surprisingly really good
too.
So no, it was a pleasant surprise, and my favorite song in the movie is Popular, and she does that whole sequence, like talking about like adding flourishes for the movie quality, like for the movie part of it, like that song worked so well, and it was mostly because of her.
I just want to say this, only to say that obviously Popular is such a good song. It's already popular. It's already big enough before she did it, and then she came in and she really made it her own. And I would give you 10,000% that credit. Yes, she's really good. Here's the thing for that first song that I know you don't like. I understand it's grating. It's not your thing. And I'm not sitting here trying to change your opinion. What I loved so much about that first song is the way that Glinda sings at that higher register the entire time. Because the first time I didn't get it. The first time I was like, I really am having a hard time understanding what she's singing.
Right.
It's not clicking. Do you watch this movie with subtitles, by the way?
I went back and watched it with subtitles because the singing was bothering me so bad.
I totally understand, because that first time I watched that song, I was a little put off because I was like, I can't hear you. Is this what this whole song's going to be? But then when I Googled it and I looked into it, and it was like she's the character is specifically singing in that register because she's lying. She's being deceitful.
Right.
And then when you look at the lyrics that she's singing based on what everyone else is singing around her,
right, to
me it just becomes my favorite song, because she's at that point in the movie, right? We flash forward. It's before all of the stuff in Wicked, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so and it really bookends the end of the movie, and it tells you this is how these characters feel by the end of this movie, you know? It's absolutely one of my favorite songs. I love that she's sitting there like fighting for the wicked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Goodness knows the wicked die alone. You know.
Yeah.
And so I love that song. I understand if it's not everyone's cup of tea, but it is probably my favorite song of that entire movie.
I going back and rewatching it and figuring out the context of it, like I understood what they were saying, but it's just not like one I'm going to throw on in the car and sing along to. You know what I mean?
Sure, absolutely, I get it. But I tell you what, we did
no
a road
one
trip.
mourns the wicked.
Okay, first off, no one mourns the wicked, Ed. That's right. Do you understand? It's on a deeper level. No one gives a shit about the bad people that die. Right. But isn't that kind of fucked up? Because she had 100%. A childhood. She had a life. Yeah. Was she wicked, or did she have wickedness thrust upon her? Ed, right. Don't get me started, okay? No, we. I had a really good time, and mainly just because I didn't expect to like it so much.
Sure, right. All right, now I've got some theories, and you can either confirm or deny, and maybe you don't know.
Hang on. I would just say this. I love theories because I'm not looking forward to part 2. I'm sorry. I'm not Googling it or whatever.
Oh, sure.
Like, I don't want to listen to the soundtrack. I don't want to this. I don't want to that.
Okay, well,
I'm going to watch it when it happens. Okay.
Okay. So this won't be spoilers.
I hope not.
Because I really don't know.
Don't let us know down below in the comments. Okay.
Exactly. Obviously, they're going to be picking up on like the Dorothy and the original Wizard of Oz threads at some point.
Correct.
They've even like released some new stills of the upcoming part 2, and it shows them. But yeah,
it opens with her being melted with the water. Go ahead.
Exactly. So you know where it's going.
Yeah, of course.
So we're talking about that opening shot. You see the hat, and then they start panning out. You follow the monkeys outside of the castle
Over
and
Oz.
Oz, but you see somebody riding away from the castle on horseback.
Mm.
So who do we think that is?
That's got to be Elphaba. I don't think she's dead. I think it's
Right.
I think it's bullshit that they're
Right.
they're making it up that she died.
Like her and Galinda
I think her.
come up
I
with
think
a plan.
her. If you see at the end of this movie, right, Mrs. Madame Morrible and the wizard,
Yeah.
they're fake. They're faking it all, right? Now, Madame Morrible does have some powers allegedly,
Right.
but overall, they're concocting the scheme.
Right.
And I think what's happening is Elphaba is probably going to take a hold of that and go, well, I need to create my own lore. And I'm going to, my lore is I die by water. I melt. Right. I'm melting. Right.
Yeah.
And what's really going to happen is she's going to poof away and then ride off into the sunset to try to go live her life.
Right.
You know, that's my guess. That's my guess.
Yeah. Okay.
And don't let us know down below, okay?
Because, don't let us know. We don't care.
I want to enjoy the second.
We
half
were talking
of
about those memos. Don't memo us about that.
This is the one thing. Shut up about. Okay.
Okay. So the other one is simply, talking about the Wizard of Oz threads. I believe that the hot guy and then the dumb munchkin are the Tin Man and the Scarecrow.
So yeah, from my understanding, is several of these characters to become the characters in Wizard of Oz.
And then maybe the Cowardly Lion is either Bo and Yang or the little lion that they send off into the woods.
I would love it if it was Bo and Yang. I'm pretty sure it's the lion cub.
They release out in the woods, yeah.
Because they freed him, right? And the whole thing is talking animals and trying to like but try to rescue them from their whatever,
tyranny or whatever.
Yeah. No, that's my guess. That's my guess. I'm on the same page. Listen, Ed, let me ask you this. Maybe not your favorite, but do you want to see the second one?
Yeah, no, 100%.
Okay, I think that's what it is. I feel like I've said it for the last 20 years of our friendship. Ed, is just like sometimes we don't like the same things, and that's okay.
But I'm on board with this one. Now,
and I feel like you have fair criticisms.
Yeah, and I don't, and I'm really just like talking out. But I hated so many movies, so much more than this. I didn't even hate this movie. I enjoyed it. I gave it a solid 4 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed it.
Wow.
I think I saw the potential. It had me tear up in some scenes. I do have some questions about the flow of the whole thing and how it wraps up in part 2.
I think it's because they split it that also plays into it, right?
Yeah.
Like the pacing of it all.
So, and it's nitpicky things like, I wish they had shot on film and captured that kind of like Technicolor glow of the Wizard of Oz, really leaned into that.
I think
I'm saying
they tried also. Like if you had to really think about it, that was a totally different era.
No, of course.
And like the whole idea of the Technicolor when they shifted from black and white to color, you don't get that now. You don't. You just can't capture that now.
No, but there is a way to make your movie look better than I think this movie does. But I'm also willing to admit I never watched it.
It's the same director. That's the only reason why I asked.
Oh, okay. And he also did, guess what? Stomp.
All right.
But no, I was just going to say, I'm seeing these are kind of like minor quibbles throughout that. But overall, it didn't, I got it. You know what I mean? I enjoyed it.
I'll say this, and I love that we're starting with this one because what I'm going to end with later is sometimes these musicals, I come into it going, I don't have this connection to it.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in it. I'm watching it just to watch it. And then by the end of it, I feel changed. I know it's kind of a dumb joke because something has changed
within me.
I know. But I really did walk away from Wicked going oh, I get it. Like that Frank Reynolds, Always Sunny. I really did get it, in that moment. And that's how I feel about a couple of these musicals that I'm going to talk about.
Let's do it.
We have about 20 minutes left. I want to really fly through this segment. Okay.
Yeah, let's make it 10.
Fuck it. Let's make it 5. Okay.
Go.
So real quick, that was the end of Wicked. Thanks, guys. So
we
now
finally did it. Yeah.
These next two I'm going to merge together and we're going to fly through, okay? But I would say this. After Wicked, I had the pleasure, Ed, okay,
Yeah.
of sitting down and watching with my wife, who I found out was like watching this movie as a teenager. She was like, I would go to bed to this movie. I would put it on my DVD. She was like, I asked for it for Christmas one year and I got it on DVD and I would just like watch it. That was like one of her, like, before streaming, when you could fall asleep to streaming, you would just throw a DVD in the player.
Yeah, I'd fall asleep to that.
Yeah, like we're doing now on the podcast. I love that.
Or a VHS.
But guys, I finally sat down and watched, it was like from the 70s, okay? The film version of Fiddler on the Roof.
There you
go. Ed, have you ever seen this movie? Fiddler
yeah,
on the Roof?
Yes. I've only seen it once, and it well over 10 years ago now.
That's fair. That's fair. I'll tell you this. I watched it over 2 or 3 nights because you guys know me. I can't. 40 minutes, I'm out. I need to take a break. I need to do something else. But we did it over a few nights, and I watched the intro, the opening act, the intermission, right? Like they really did the whole musical on film.
Yeah.
And I walked away from it going, that might have been one of my favorite things I ever watched. Okay. It was so good.
If I was a rich man.
Come on. Guys, I'm telling you, this was one of those things where every single person was cast perfectly.
Yeah.
Every time,
especially.
Oh God, he was my favorite. He was so good. But really, they were all so good. And that's what I love, is when you just start to buy in. The more you kind of want to hate it. You kind of want to not watch it. You kind of want to be like, I don't love musicals or whatever.
Right.
But then the more you sit with it, the more you're just like, wait, put it on for a little bit longer. I'm still watching,
Since you've been talking about it, I've been wanting to go back and rewatch it because it was a good film. I just don't remember a whole lot about it.
It's so good. Can I tell you this
my
also?
mum loves it. My mum... It was always one of those movies that my mum had present, or we never had it in the house, but she talked about it a lot. She loved it.
You know what's great is you don't even have to have it. It's free on YouTube. You can just go to youtube.com and watch Fiddler on the Roof. And I'm not sponsored. Obviously we should be. YouTube. Thank you. But man, I just couldn't believe we sat down, we watched it. All of the performances are so good. And can I tell you the thing that really fucking took me by surprise is that it just ends and it doesn't really like put a bow on it or wrap things up.
No.
They immigrate to America at the end of the movie and they just kind of go like, we're kicked out of our land and oops. And then the movie ends and you're just like, what do you mean? Like there's no...
So... It's like one of a series of, so in the 60s was kind of like an era of kind of large, fun-filled, romanticized musicals in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And like you had maybe 3 or 4 at least winning Best Picture that decade. And then the next decade, the 70s, got a lot more darker, a lot more cynical, and Hollywood took that transition. It was a Godfather era, you know what I mean? And this was one of them, and then also Cabaret.
Yeah, which it's on my list. I'm going to watch that.
That's a good one, especially to follow with Fiddler on the Roof. But that is also one of those movies that it takes place in a time and ends as such, like on just kind of down
kind of drab, not good.
So.
What I love about it is it feels of the time, like very like 70s style, like filmmaking.
Yeah.
But they really make some bold choices. Like there's moments where the father, and it's been a few weeks now, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting his name, where like his daughters all come to him at different points in the movie and say like, I want to marry this man.
Yeah.
And he like has this like out of body experience where he speaks to God. And goes like, why do you give me this? What am I to learn from this? And the entire time in the background of the shot is the couple or whatever, it's like we're standing here and then he has a moment with God and then he goes, zhoosh, and he's like, is connected to him and far away from them. Right. And so it's like, they're making these really cinematic choices in this musical. Which is how I felt about Wicked. I know you were talking about it earlier, but it's just like things that you can't do in the play, you can do on film.
Yeah.
And I just really loved going from Wicked to Fiddler on the Roof. And again, I really fought all of these musicals on my list because I was just like, I don't know.
Yeah,
And then all of a sudden,
and that's an old one. I was surprised when you told me you'd watch that. Of like on that entire list, I was surprised you didn't go with something more contemporary.
I know, but my
because
wife
that wouldn't
was
have been
just-
my first choice, honestly.
The way Kristen was just like, I love this movie, and I
That's
think you
awesome.
would really like it.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
And-
that also helps resonate, especially with musicals. Like, I have one or two that I'm very passionate about, like Oliver Twist.
Which is on my list, dude.
It's
like, I'll watch that movie.
That movie
you know?
I adore, and I watch it maybe once a year, but it still gets to me. It's scary, it's beautiful, it's fun, it's funny, it's scary. And that won Best Picture, and I forget when, it was the late 60s. But anyway, it was it's one of those that I grew up with. That was one that was like on television all the time, or I think we had a video at some point.
I want to bring it up just now is that there is this sense of movie making now, which is not a bad thing, but like there's a lot of like CGI, a lot of green screen, and which is however you take it or whatever. But I really love this moment in cinema where everyone was on set and they were just acting. They said action, and then they acted, and then they said cut, and then they pieced it together, and it was like this glorious thing.
Right.
You know, and
there's a lot of tinkering these days, and back then you just had to work with what you had.
Exactly, and so you really felt like they were putting like kind of it all out in front of the camera, and you felt it as an audience member. It's for me at least, watching it. So I mean, I immediately told her as soon as it was done, I was like, I want to watch this again. Like, I will come back to that.
Nice.
It was so good.
I'll share one little anecdote about Fiddler on the Roof, and it's not even my experience, so it's kind of cheating. But so maybe 10 years ago, and this was sometime after I had seen the movie, but they had a showing of Fiddler on the Roof, or tour of Topo's last like run of doing that character.
Yeah,
because he was doing it all the way up into his 70s, man. And so I did get invited to it, but this was when I was in the oil industry, and my mum invited me to go. I didn't, but she got to see him live one last time.
Wow, do you feel like a fucking asshole for even sharing this story?
No,
I wouldn't have told anyone that.
I wish I would. I would like. I regret going now, but that's still kind of cool that she got to see him live.
No, that is dope.
And she said he was like just as good as he was back then. You know,
I just implore all of our listeners, go watch that movie.
Fiddler on the Roof.
So
as Miguel
good.
just said, you can find it on YouTube
for free. But he is so good. I mean, that's amazing. She got to see him do that performance because
live, yeah.
I mean, and I'm going to talk about it in a minute, but there's some people that I would love to see do some musicals live.
Oh,
in
100%.
fact, what I would love to do, we have a few minutes left. I'm going to skip this next one. I'll just very briefly at the end of here say that I watched Rent, and that's for another time. Okay, we'll talk about it some other time. Okay, but I'm going to mark it now. The last thing I'm going to talk about, Ed, have you seen it? Did you watch Hamilton?
Yes.
Okay. Did you watch it in like live theater? Or
No,
did you
I
watch
watched it on when it came to Disney Plus.
Okay. So that was the one I watched. I would say this. I've watched Wicked, Fiddler, Rent, and Hamilton now. And Hamilton is the only one that was like a live, quote unquote live stage performance. Yeah. And I'm just going to be real. Much like most of these other musicals, I came into it going, I fucking don't want to watch this. Okay. And I'll tell you this, I watched maybe like 2/3 of Hamilton, and I was like, listen, let's wrap this up. Okay. Because I'm over it. All right.
It is long. It's long.
It's long, and I'm going to be real. Like, sometimes it just feels a little cringy because
a
it's
little
just
exhausting.
Like, listen, the lyrics, the song, whatever, everything is good, but sometimes it's just like Lin-Manuel is not a good singer, you know? And I just am like, I'm exhausted just watching him. First off, they spend the entire movie going, fucking Alexander Hamilton is so fucking hot. I can't wait to bang him. I hope he cheats on his wife so he can fuck me. And I'm just like, all right, Lin-Manuel, like, yeah, I would write that musical too. You know,
yeah,
like, yo, just imagine me, big boy Miguel, being like, yeah, I'm fuckable. Let's go. Okay. Well, yeah, sure, Lin-Manuel.
I would say, like, I think one of the biggest feelings I had about that coming out of it was just like, that was exhausting.
It is a lot. First off, hop on Spotify right now and look at the Hamilton soundtrack. It's 2 discs on Spotify. It's digital here. Okay.
Yeah, right.
It's 2 discs and every disc is fucking 45 songs. It's too much. It's too much. But I will say this, much like a lot of these musicals on my list.
Yeah.
By the end of it, it fucking hooked me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Man,
the last 3 or 5 numbers just like really fucking
was one of them the room where it happened.
Yes. Yeah, that was in the second act. It was early in the second act.
Yeah.
But it was like, oh, I see. Once
that was one of the songs that really locked me in.
The beginning of the musical is very, very fast paced. They're singing a lot of
throws
songs.
So much at you.
Exactly. And so I was like, oh, okay, we're just
there was
like
one
streamline.
bit where I guess like one of the ladies was singing. It's an emotional song. And I was crying, and I don't even know why. Like, I don't remember what it was about. But like, yeah, I was just like, oh, why am I so overcome with emotion? Maybe I was already tired. I don't know, but yeah. But hey, it has. I get all of those feelings that you just.
It really sent it home in the second half of the play. Is once they stopped like the exposition.
Yeah.
Once they quit pushing that so forward, and they were just like, here's what's happening. It was like, oh, okay. And then some of the actors play dual roles, so like they die or they move on,
right?
And then they come back as other characters, and it's like, oh, okay, I see what's happening now,
right?
And a part of me was really hung up was just like they were really pushing this like immigrant angle. And like everything is diverse, and I was like, I don't know. I'm pretty sure if you look at the history books, they're all just like plain boring white people in like real life. But then by the time it ended, I was like, oh, I get it. Like they are. This is all just like the history is the backdrop, and like the way they're telling the story is just like a modern day telling of like what's going on in our world. And all of a sudden I was just like, I get it. And I would say this, watching the original cast on Broadway in this on Disney Plus, I do think there's some actors that I'm like, yeah, you're lucky you were the first guy to do this because you're not very good. But so the ladies, they've absolutely stole the show.
Yeah.
The 2 characters, Angelica and Eliza. Yeah. And Angelica, the older sister, I bought into immediately. I was like, oh my God, she's so good. Every time she opens her mouth, she's fucking nailing these songs.
Yeah.
Eliza took me a minute, but I feel like that was because of the way they framed her character in the show.
Yeah.
Because she has the last moment of the whole thing.
Yeah.
After Alexander Hamilton, spoiler alert, dies, she has a whole song, and I mean I was bawling at the end of that movie, because I was like, oh, I get it now again, that whole gif. So I'm just having these sorry, let me wrap up with this like thought is just I'm having these like musical moments,
revelations,
and sometimes, and Kristen the other day she sat me down and she goes, I kind of think you like musicals a lot more than you think. And
I think so too.
I think she's right.
Miguel, you remember a little ways back we were talking about maybe our Spotify lists or whatever, and I told you you're much more of a lyrical man than you are like a harmony and musical man.
That's very true.
And I think maybe when you lock into these lyrics, like you were saying in the Wicked song, the first song, you're looking into those lyrics, and that's why you enjoy that song. But for me, it hurts my ears, so I don't like that song.
I think that's fair.
But you know what I mean? And that's like a very generalized overview of it, but I think that is a part of it, and I think that is why also there are a lot of like musicals on that list that actually I think will resonate with you because of that. I was just listening to some songs. I know you actually seen this film a long time ago, but I was just listening to some songs from the original cast recording of Les Miserables, not the movie, the stage.
Yeah.
But there's
on
one
my
song,
list.
and there's the Anne Hathaway song in that just that gets me every time I watch that movie, which isn't very much, but I'll watch that scene just to watch that scene.
Mm-hmm.
But that song itself is so beautiful and tragic, and so I think there's that'll be fun to be exploring.
When they both come together, like they converge to the lyrics and the melody and the overall whatever of the song.
Yeah.
When it all comes together, you just sit there at the end of it, and maybe it's a little musical theater of whatever when they go, and Alexander Hamilton, you know, and then the lights dim or whatever, and you go, okay, we're making a play or whatever. But it's just like there's a moment where you just kind of listen to it all and you go, wow, that. And I was going back and listening to songs today. Even I was just like, no, that song really sat with me. The good guys, the bad guys, we talk about this in some other TV shows and movies that we watch, but it's like, what does it mean to be the good guy of your story? And that's kind of the Hamilton theme, is like, who writes your story? And so at the end of it, when I finished it, I was like, well, let me go back and listen to the people that I thought were the bad guys. Let me just like hear their songs again, because all of a sudden I'm like hearing it through a new whatever. Totally. But no, it was one of those things where I told Kristen, I was like, I really wanted to hate this movie coming into it. And after we watched it, I just couldn't stop like hearing the songs in my ear. Yeah. So
that's a good one that you can just like play and like, listen to in the background kind of thing, because it is so lyrical and fast paced. It's just like, I'm just gonna go work on things. And
I would tell you this is like Wicked as a stage show to a movie. I've really loved that adaptation. I would be curious to see what like Hamilton would do, because it's like a tough one. Hamilton is so static. It's one stage, it's one set, and then there's some really cool visuals, but it's just like you can only do so much with it. So it's like, okay, these songs really push forward. Are they going to take time to like film a scene with it, or is
they got to flow? Everything flows into one another. It's not just like and end scene or end number, or very rarely is it like end number kind of thing.
Kristen has given me some shit because after Wicked was done, I was like, oh, they were like sprinkling like bits of songs throughout every song, and she was like, yeah, Miguel, that's how a musical
You're describing a musical.
I know. And then so for Hamilton especially, it's like so like cyclical. Like they are like, it's like the same 9 songs in every song.
Man, I can just imagine you watching Wicked for the first time, just be like,
oh, this is popular, you know.
And unlimited. And she
no,
said that
stop,
earlier.
stop.
She said that earlier.
When she said for real, when she said unlimited, I was like, oh. No, I know.
Regal
I'm
Unlimited.
Oh, fuck me. No, listen, guys, we'll wrap up here. But I've become a musical fan. Okay.
And if you, our loyal listeners, have your favorite musicals that you want to suggest and want Miguel to watch, and I'll watch it. I'll probably watch it too, honestly. Send us suggestions. Send us the ones that you think Miguel needs to watch. What is the critical musical?
I love that.
That Miguel needs to catch. And
I mean, Ed, you just said Les Mis. That's on my list.
That wouldn't even be my go-to. I would say I would love for you to watch Oliver.
That's on my list.
That's a different kind of style, but I think it has merit. And then I'll throw in a fun one, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
I love it. And I'll tell you this, if I could watch like a stage and a film performance, I would love that also, because I love to compare the both. You know what I mean?
Phantom of the Opera too, because your girl Emmy Rossum is in it.
Rossum.
Yeah,
I know.
But
guys,
send in your requests and or suggestions for Miguel. Let us know your thoughts on Jurassic Park or World Rebirth, and of course the Fantastic Four. Mm-hmm. What are we doing next week?
We'll let you know.
Well, it's post Super Bowl, I guess. Maybe
we'll fucking see.
Luis will decide.
He's the boss.
He's the boss.
He cannot take vacations like this. He has to come back. And guys, that was our episode. You know, like, subscribe, post all the socials. You guys know what to do. I've been your host, Miguel Sanchez.
And I'm Ed Bull.
We love it. And as always, how do we wrap up?
Unlimited.
Everything
Miguel.
is
I hope you're happy. I hope you're happy now.